Hello my friends, I'm Rick and this is your seat at the table, and we are looking at Battletech Legends Initiation to War by Robert N. Sherratt. And this was a novel that was in PDF version that was graciously given to me by one of my subscribers, and he gave me a couple other ones, and I'm really grateful he did. I don't know, I was expecting, to be honest, I was expecting this book to be a continuation in something else I'd read, and so it turns out to not be that way. And oh, I know, let's get this thing out of the way, right? Alright, so when people sit there and complain about it, don't tell me that I didn't give you the spoiler, right? Because that's kind of what we're doing here. Alright? It didn't buzz it. There it goes. There it goes. It didn't buzz that second time. So we're looking at the initiation of a novel. So Tybalt Kelly grows up on Epsilon Eridani, and as far as long as he could remember, he wanted to be a mech warrior, preferably one for House Liao's warrior houses, but any mech billet would do. So when word went out that trials would be held for a new mech unit being formed, he ignored his father's disdain and signed up. Count Gabriel Shu's of County Shu set about creating a County Shu volunteer force. He did so in order to help defend his turf from bandit raiders and his fellow nobles if need be. After all, the Chaos March was not a safe region of the Inner Sphere, exact sort of place that the Word of Blake liked to get involved with. After sweating and convincing himself that he failed the trials miserably, Kelly was shocked to discover he had made it. He was to be a true mech jock. The Shu Volunteers was also an experiment by its commander, Major Blah Blah, and an oversized battalion made up of 5 companies of two 5-mech lances. So 5 companies of 10 mechs. So an abbreviated version of a trinary from the clans. Or the Delta Force, or whatever the hell that battalion was that Redburn put together in the Fourth Succession War, which was basically an oversized company designed around a whole pile of extra light mechs, right? So, typical of many worlds is the attempt to independence from one of the great houses. Eridani Absolute's ruling factions are all at odds. The neighboring county to Shu has hired mercenaries and is using them to stage pirate raids as well as sabotages. As yet, an unknown force sabotaged Kelly's Empire box. Oh, okay, so Kelly was practicing in the field, and they have this thing called an umpire box, which is basically designed to disengage the weapon system, so the simulators will make you think you're firing them, but you're not actually firing them. But by disabling this device, this allowed them to actually fire upon an opponent, one of the other members of his battalion, during a practice engagement, killing the MechWarrior. Eventually cleared, Kelly finds his lance assigned to active duty escorting the Countess of Shu to a high-level negotiation with the antagonistic neighbors. Right, and of course, during the negotiation, Kelly manages to set up a meeting between the Commander Becca and the Karidan Ronin mercenary leader at a club. Instead, they run into Merc Leader and the Chief Bandit, played by their rivals. No surprise, the next day the bad weather shuts down communications. Count Shu's party is set up for the death of the minister of the other area planetary government, blah blah, as well as turning their foes are and finance launching an overt attack. Yeah, I made a lot of damn notes. Kelly and his lance must now get to the Countess' home alive. Successful in their mission, Kelly and his fellow MechWarriors settle into weeks of slow and drawn-out conflict. During the encounter, the captain of Kelly's company is killed, resulting in Beck, the Lance Commander's promotion. To his surprise, Kelly is promoted as well to Lance Commander. Weeks pass. During a recon sweep, Kelly's units find out some mysterious folk at a remote sheep station. In the process, capture a Word of Blake agent and unravel the the big mystery. So the main this is a good story, and it was not a follow-up to a sequence of books that I thought it was, which was kind of sad, but it still made for a good read, and I actually read it pretty quick, which is, you know, another one of these novelette. I guess I'm not being fair, novelette, but anyway, the gist of this is a grand example. Once again, yet another example of how you can be a member of a mech unit that does not involve being one of the major house players. So what we have here is a currently independent system world, and it's in the quote chaos March era, which is apparently is so chaotic that none of the big houses have the sufficient resources to just step on top of these guys and lay hands on them, or there's just too much conflict going on. I'm still a little vague on how come this Chaos March is still a thing today in the more modern era. But what it does is it shows us that, okay, so you have a planet that has numerous nobles on the planet. Every one of them has responsibilities for their little piece of the planet. And so this also includes security and protection and force projection if necessary. So it behooves the local counts to purchase and support military units, which also often include mechs. Generally speaking, though, the County Shu battalion, for example, is quite actually extensive. Having a battalion for that small entity is not unheard of. It's just kind of on the rare side of things. It just goes to show you how hard up the situation politically is growing on Epsilon Eridani. So in this case, as a player, it just shows that you have, when we look at house power, when a house Merrick says it can project 57 regiments through, you know, as their military. That's the house's military that they can dip into right away. But for every one of those, there's 2 or 3 second and third line units that are still around. So when we look at this county, so this planet, you move into this planet, and if there's 100 counties around the planet, and every one of them's fielding a battalion-sized unit of defenders, look at the numbers. This makes for a really powerful, robust defense of the planet, but they're not going to coordinate. They're not going to work together. They're not going to share intel. They're not going to share supplies, and more than likely, most of these are going to be considered second and third line units, in part because, well, look at the County Shu. Kelly, the character from the story, is a local recruit who's basically the only reason he's selected is because everybody who could pilot a mech that got through the basics was selected. And half of the machines they got are salvaged and in bad shape. The others are considered brand new right off of the assembly line with other issues with them. And then the balance is made up of construction mechs and farming mechs, you know, non-traditional battle mechs, right? So obviously not going to be up to snuff if I don't know, the second Crucis Lancers decides to land and knock the door down. So, you know, it is what it is. Anyhow, it's a good novel, good story. If you haven't read it, I recommend it. You guys have yourself a great weekend. Because you know you want the cat girls to exist.